Hey, Westside Leavenworth leader, thank you for taking the time to watch this Leader's Look. We may be off the script, but we are still on mission. And over the next couple minutes, we want to help equip you to lead wherever you are. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know that your time is precious, and while our whole lives are off script right now, like my kids are on the other side of the door and they're playing in there, so if you hear the noises, they're in there, and all of our lives are kind of disrupted right now. And in this time, it's more important that we as leaders make the opportunity to lead in this time. And I want to equip you over the next several minutes on how to lead. And last time we were together, if you remember, I was in my coach's gear. And if you missed it, I encourage you to go back and watch the last Leaders Look that we posted last week. In that time together, I talked about two choices that every person has. And these are two choices that I want our 10U baseball team and these boys to learn, because I know that they're going to grow up and they're going to face things in life that are going to be outside of their control. And like you and I are facing things in our life that are outside of our control. And no matter what happens to us in life that's outside of our control, we always have, regardless of the situation, control over these two things: our attitude and our effort. And today I want us to dive in a little more to looking at how do we choose our attitude? How do we make the choice of choosing the right attitude when things are outside of our control? And this is a very important thing right now, because your attitude determines everything. Your attitude impacts your effort. Your attitude impacts your actions, your words, and everything that you end up doing evolves from your attitude. And today I want us to look at the attitude. And I was handed a book when I was a young a young teenager, I guess not even teenager, a young 20-something. And it was John Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You. And in that, he had a whole chapter on your attitude. And it impacted me as a very young leader in my own life. And this is what he wrote in that Developing a Leader Within You. John Maxwell said this: attitude is your most important asset. As a leader, your attitude is your most personal and most important personal asset that you have. And this impacts everything. And I want to help you make a choice of your attitude. So how do we do this? How do we choose it? Well, we need to understand what our attitude is and what shapes our attitude. And this is my definition of what my attitude is and our attitude is. And there are many working definitions out there, not that those are bad, but I always like the exercise of trying to define things myself. So it helps me understand it. And this is today I want to share with you my definition of what our attitude is. See, our attitude is the sum of our beliefs while facing our current situation. Let me say that again. Our attitude is the sum of our beliefs while facing our current situation. It's a sum of what you believe while you're facing your current circumstance. It's a sum of what all those beliefs that you have. It's the sum of them all. It comes out in your attitude as you face the current situation. That's what your attitude, the sum of your beliefs in the face of the current situation you are in. So this is what our attitude is. And in order to understand this more, we need to understand, okay, what is it that we believe? And as Christ followers, we have the truth of what we need to believe. And it's our faith that fuels our attitude. In fact, maybe you need to write that down. Your faith fuels your attitude. Your faith fuels your attitude. And your faith is you've heard me talk about this, is your trust or your belief in God. And this is what I believe is a great working definition of faith. See, your faith is your trust in who God is and your hope in what he can and what he will do. Let me say that again. Our faith is our trust in who God is, and it's our hope in what he can do, and it's in our hope in what he will eventually do. That's what faith is. It's trusting in who God is. And as we trust in who God is, this John, in 1 John, I believe chapter 3, he would write this about God. He would say, God is love. And we see this all through Scripture, that God reinforces this nature. He is love. This is who God is. He loves. And because he is love, God is not secondarily, just as equal to this. He's good. He's all love, and he is all good. And the reason he's good is because he's love. And the reason he has all these amazing characteristics, that he's faithful, that he's true, that he's just, and all the different characteristics of God that we believe in, are because of who God is. And what you believe about God fuels your attitude in this current circumstance that you're in right now. Your faith fuels your attitude of who God is. And it's also your hope in what he can do. It's your hope in that he can change circumstances. And it's also not just your hope in what he can do right now, but it's our hope in what he will eventually do. And this is so important to our attitude. I'm going to tell you a little story in a couple minutes that's going to show you the reason why your faith and your hope and what he can, and he specifically, more importantly, will do, and why that is so important. So we've got to learn to grow in our faith. Your faith is so critical to your attitude. You don't have a strong faith, you don't have a trust in who God is, or you don't have a hope in what he can do or he will do, then it'll fuel your attitude, or it won't fuel your attitude. And so we have to lead ourselves in knowing who Jesus is, because if we want to learn about God, if we want to be able to trust in who God is, we got to see him. And if we want to see God, we need to see Jesus. And if we want to know God, we need to get to know Jesus. And this is where we lead ourselves in being a disciple. And we lead ourselves by going to Scripture to learn about who Jesus is, because he reveals to us the perfect picture of God. So discipleship is what fuels our faith, and our faith is what fuels our attitude. And this is why Scripture and prayer is so important to you having a great attitude. Maybe you need a checkup from the neck up, like my mom used to say, and you need to check your attitude, and you've had a bad attitude. Well, one of the things I do when I'm having a bad attitude is I go back to Scripture, because Scripture fuels my faith and fuels my faith in who God is in that circumstance that I'm facing, and it helps me adjust in my attitude. So why is this so important? Because your attitude will determine how you get through your current circumstance. This will determine if you get through it stronger, or if this circumstance will make you weaker. Your attitude is the tipping point for this. And it's your faith that fuels it, and your discipleship fuels your faith. And this story that I want to read and I want to share with you and end this with is about Admiral Jim Stockdale. And maybe you've read the book Good to Great. And in this book, Jim Collins, the author, tells the story of Admiral Jim Stockdale. And there is something that he refers to as a Stockdale paradox, and I'll end with that here in a second. But Admiral Stockdale was a Vietnam War POW. He was in one of the worst POW camps possible. Over 8 years he spent in as a prisoner of war. And he was beaten, and he was punished, and he was tortured over 20 times that he remembers. He survived this in 8 years without any POW rights. He survived this season with no release date, and he survived this with no hope that he would ever see his family again. And Jim Collins takes the time to just meet with him, and he has this conversation with Admiral Stockdale. And I just want to read you real quickly what that interaction looks like. And so in this, he's mesmerized. The author here, Jim Collins, is mesmerized with Admiral Stockdale's endurance and his perseverance and his grit and his attitude in this whole thing. And he gets to this, and Jim Collins couldn't understand how he dealt with everything that he went through without knowing how it was going to end, with the uncertainty of not knowing how this circumstance would end. And this is what Jim Stockdale said, and it's in Good to Great. He says, "I never lost faith in the end of the story I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which, in retrospect, I would not trade. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because this story, I think, it shows us the impact of our attitude. A couple weeks ago, I was talking with a friend of mine, and I told him this story because he was having a difficult day dealing with the circumstances and maybe the possibility of the stay-at-home order not lifting immediately. And then I heard this same story from a pastor that I listen to on a regular basis. And he shared at the beginning of his message that he shared last week. And I heard it yesterday morning. And it was a great reminder of our attitude that we have. And so in this, Jim Collins hears this and just is mesmerized with this man's faith, his resilience, and his grit. And he goes on to write, I didn't say anything for minutes, and we continued to slowly walk toward the club, Stockdale limping and Ark swinging his stiff leg that had never fully recovered from the repeated torture. Finally, after about 100 meters of silence, he asked, who didn't make it out? And I want you to listen to this. Oh, that's easy, Stockdale said. The optimists. The optimists? I don't understand, I said, now completely confused, given what he'd said just 100 meters earlier. The optimist? Now, they were the ones who said, we're going to be out by Christmas, and Christmas would come and Christmas would go. Then they'd say, we're going to be out by Easter, and Easter would come and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas again, and then they died. And then when he asked, what did they die from? Stockdale said they died of a broken heart. Another long pause. And then he turned to Jim Collins and says this. This is a very important lesson, and I want you to catch this. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Let me read that again. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, with which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. This has come to be known as the Stockdale paradox. And never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end. You know, as Christ followers, we prevail in the end. Why? And because we believe that. Why do we believe that? Because of a resurrection of Jesus, where he said, I am the resurrection and the life. And he came back to life, proving his words are true. That fuels our faith. And what does our faith fuel? Our faith fuels our attitude. That in this right here, we don't know what this current situation will be. We don't know how long this is going to be. But we know how the end is. We know the ultimate end. And never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end. And never confuse that with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. We don't know when this will lift. And that's the brutal fact. We don't know if it'll be this week or next week. We don't know how much longer that the kids are going to be dealing with this dynamic. We don't know that when we'll be able to go to the grocery store and not have to worry about not touching our face. We don't know what that'll be like. But we do know this. We know the end. We know what the end of our story is. And because of our faith in Jesus, and because of who God is and what he can do and will eventually do, and we know that story, we can choose our attitude no matter what we face in life, no matter what you are facing right now. See, you can choose your attitude. And you might have to confront the brutal reality of this current situation, but you can have an attitude that is fueled by your faith in who God is and what he's capable of doing and what he all will do in the end. Thank you so much for being a leader who serves and being one who chooses your attitude, because your attitude is your most important asset, and it will influence the people around you. So choose your attitude in the middle of this, and never confuse the faith that will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. See, attitude is the sum of our beliefs while facing our current situation. So choose your attitude appropriately. God bless you, Westside, and thank you for being a leader who serves wherever you are. Week or next week. We don't know how much longer that the kids are going to be dealing with this dynamic. We don't know that when we'll be able to go to the grocery store and not have to worry about not touching our face. We don't know what that'll be like. But we do know this. We know the end. We know what the end of our story is. And because of our faith in Jesus, and because of who God is and what he can do and will eventually do, and we know that story, we can choose our attitude no matter what we face in life, no matter what you are facing right now. See, you can choose your attitude. And you might have to confront the brutal reality of this current situation, but you can have an attitude that is fueled by your faith in who God is and what he is capable of doing and what he all will do in the end. Thank you so much for being a leader who serves and being one who chooses your attitude, because your attitude is your most important asset and it will influence the people around you. So choose your attitude in the middle of this and never confuse the faith that will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. See, attitude is the sum of our beliefs while facing our current situation. So choose your attitude appropriately. God bless you, Westside, and thank you for being a leader who serves wherever you are. Week or next week, we don't know how much longer that the kids are going to be dealing with this dynamic. We don't know that when we'll be able to go to the grocery store and not have to worry about not touching our face. We don't know what that'll be like. But we do know this. We know the end. We know what the end of our story is. And because of our faith in Jesus, and because of who God is and what he can do and will eventually do, and we know that story, we can choose our attitude no matter what we face in life, no matter what you are facing right now. See, you can choose your attitude. And you might have to confront the brutal reality of this current situation, but you can have an attitude that is fueled by your faith in who God is and what he is capable of doing and what he all will do in the end. Thank you so much for being a leader who serves and being one who chooses your attitude, because your attitude is your most important asset and it will influence the people around you. So choose your attitude in the middle of this and never confuse the faith that will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. See, attitude is the sum of our beliefs while facing our current situation. So choose your attitude appropriately. God bless you, Westside, and thank you for being a leader who serves wherever you are.